Welcome. You're in the Crossroad Diner, that place where your spirit goes when it's time to change direction. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Crossroad Diner. Monson Flake is with us today, and he's got a big life story. So I guarantee you, Monson knows his way around the Crossroad Diner. He has been in the place where he's had to kind of reflect and take all the pieces that are going on and saying, what part of this is me? What part of it's not? Which way do I go from here? Welcome to the Crossroad Diner, Monson.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here and excited to give your listeners something, hopefully, that entertains them.
Me too. That would be really good.
For all of us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because life's too short not to have a good time.
Amen.
I had a professor one time that said, if this is not going to be fun, let's not do it. So
I like that a lot.
I felt really good about that course. Say it again.
Especially from a professor, I like that a lot.
Yeah, well, he was a really cool guy. He should have been born in a time where he could have had a podcast, because he had a wonderful philosophy of life. He was an incredibly disciplined individual with a couple of PhDs and 2 master's degrees. I mean, the guy would just love going to school.
Wow,
and because he knew how to make it fun, and that's a really great gift. So, give me a little, so that we can all kind of be on the same page here. You've got a gigantic family, of which you're the baby. So just kind of give us the elevator speech portion of that.
I come from a family. I have 9 siblings, and I guess technically I misled you a little bit. I'm number 8 from my mom and dad, and then my parents split up when I was like 2. And the 2 that are younger than me are my stepsister and my half brother.
Okay,
and so
well,
technically the baby, but then at one point I was
the senior,
the older one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Kind of like 2 families.
That gives you quite a range of experience in the sibling in the sibling block. Your podcast, your podcast is called Life Must Go On. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about that title.
Yeah, it's. Well, one, it's if you probably understand, it's impossible to come up with a flippin' podcast name that's not taken 100 times. And so I was trying so hard to come up with something that resonated with the message I wanted to share, and something that sounded good at the same time. And most of them are taken. It took a minute, but Life Must Go On. I was actually listening. I was cleaning my room, just listening to some music. And there's a song called Life Must Go On. And this is during the same time I was trying to come up with the name. And I heard the song, and the message of the song is exactly what I want to portray. And so I was like, whoa, worked out perfectly. I mean, it's really just learning from the situations of life, taking what we can, and then moving forward with ourselves, and then bringing other people along the way. Because life, I mean, the one real enemy that we have in life is time. It never stops ticking. Everything else we can confront, we can stop, we can handle. Time never stops ticking. And so if we're going to be here, yes, we'll have challenges. Yes, we'll have issues. But at the end of the day, life must go on.
Cool. So in the diner, we talk about the Crossroad Diner being that place where your spirit goes to when you know that you need to change direction, or you feel like you might need to change direction. Mm. And in that place, you encounter you have to make decisions. You could try to gather information. You try to be objective, and being objective is very, very difficult, particularly when you're in stress. Mm-hmm. And so, grace is one of the things that you have to forgive yourself for the part of you that got you to where you are that you don't want to be. And I say that it's not only just forgiving yourself, realize that that's developmental. I mean, sometimes it's circumstances outside your control, but how you react to it, that's you. That's how you process it. But you got to be equipped for that. What was the first major crossroad decision that you had to face, where you had to shift gears and that you took a little bit of control and redirected your life?
Yeah. Well, I've noticed from a very young age, one, if anybody listening has kids are smart, and they pick up on literally everything.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty incredible. And I have vivid memories of being very young And our family was split up when I was just 2. And so there were certain siblings that wanted to live with my mom, certain siblings that wanted to live with my dad. And it was causing some issues, especially with some of the older siblings. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know really where to be or what should I just want to love everybody. I was just a young kid. I'm like, I just want everybody to be happy.
Were you called upon to make that decision?
Not necessarily, but later in life, yes. Okay. And so as I grew up, I would notice things that led me to eventually realizing where I should be. And I love both my parents, no matter the mistakes. I love them both very much. But over time, I realized that living with my dad was just much better for me. And when I had to come to make that decision, it came down to really, I think the most important thing when it comes to making crossroad decisions is knowing who you are is the main thing. I think it's important. You have to have confidence in yourself, confidence in your decisions, confidence in the situation. And so it came down to that.
How does a child go about that, Monson? How do you differentiate the you that you are from the one that you've been molded to be by, almost, a dozen siblings and parents and uncles and aunts and all that? How do you know the you that's you?
I think it comes down to, you will feel, if I could put it into like a philosophical term, you will feel the most joy on the other side of the most fear. And if you look at life as a mountain, if you're climbing up this mountain and the peak is scary, it's intense, on the other side, it gets nothing but way better. Going down a mountain's a lot easier than going up it. And so joy is on the other side of fear. And sometimes in life, I really believe that in order to make the greatest decisions, we have to reach peak fear to be able to go to the other side. And so for myself and for kids, sometimes you feel we all have an innate goodness, I believe, and an innate, moral decisioning that we make in our lives. I don't think it's just purely your circumstances. I think deep down, there's no child that's born that's racist. There's no child that's born that just hates the world. But circumstances happen, so on and so forth. But if you hold on to those core internal truths that say, this is right, this is wrong, those are the decisions that's going to be at your peak. When you get to the top, it's going to be scary and it's going to be hard, but eventually you have to confront it. And when you do confront it, it often leads to joy. I'm not here to make decisions for everybody, but in my circumstances, that was a scary point in my life where I just didn't know, and I didn't want to hurt anybody. I didn't want to cause any harm or problems. I was young, and so I didn't fully understand the situation, but I knew what I had to do internally, and making that decision was a very scary and a very difficult decision, but I confronted it and was able to thankfully be in the position which I think was the best for me.
Good deal. And you make an excellent point that the only way you can't go around fear because it can outflank anything. You got to go through it. And the more you do that, the more you survive knowing some big percentage of what you were afraid of isn't real. And there's some of it that is very real, very, very real. But that doesn't mean that you're not equipped to survive and maybe even thrive having had that experience.
Have you ever seen Kung Fu Panda?
I've watched it with kids. So I haven't had the direct experience. In fact, where I watched it, there's just outside of Wimberley, Texas is a really cool place. Yeah. It's on the river, and they've got a walk-in movie theater, not drive-in. You show up with a chair, and it's a place called the Corral. And you bring your chair in, you pay your $1, you get in, everything in there's $1. Coke is $1. Everything's $1.
Dang, I love this place.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And big screen down at the end of the corral, literally built in a functioning corral. And then where the barn was, up on the roof of the barn is a shack with the projector in it. It's just fabulous. But it doesn't project the greatest thing in the world. So I watched Kung Fu Panda with a bunch of little kids outside at the corral in Wimberley, Texas. So take me to what you want to tell me about. It was revealed to you by the panda.
Well, I love that. There's a quote, Master Oogway, the turtle.
Yeah.
There's a quote that he says, and I'm going to butcher it as far as exactness, but he ultimately says, the thing that we're trying to avoid the most, we often confront it on the path that we took to avoid it. And I just, like you're saying, there's no other way than through, because you'll try to avoid it, but eventually your life's destiny will lead you to that point, and you're going to have to confront it. And if you don't, it causes snowball effect, an ample amount of problems raised up. And so it's better to just confront it when it's there.
Right. What kind of career path did you seek?
Well, currently at the beginning, I had no idea. And I mean, I'm still learning so much. I'm still just a youngin'. But I went to school to discover a couple things, and I learned school was definitely not, I could not thrive in school, and I'm not against school, all of that. But I really, really struggled with school and the whole process, mostly just the way it's set up, not necessarily learning things. I really enjoy that.
Sure.
And so I learned a couple things there. And eventually I realized my really deep joy and passion is public speaking. And so currently I'm in the process of becoming a public speaker and a coach. And so I'm just barely at the point of finishing a website and about to start booking gigs. So it's really exciting.
What's your topic?
My topic is helping specifically college age students, but really anybody, but specifically that age group between 18 to 30, helping them discover who they are in order for them to know what and where they want to be.
Right. Outstanding. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's my message as well. And that's kind of the message of this podcast. So we're really aligned on those things. Awesome. And I'm glad to see, there are a number of us in that, find who you are and, work your bliss kind of thing. I've got a wonderful minister that I read his daily blog, and he said that, that he recommends that you follow your bliss except for certain occasions. And he listed several careers, which are my careers. And his reasoning was the same reasoning my parents had. 1 out of 10,000 has any kind of financial success. Your odds are bad. And my message is that's true, and know that. And it would really be great not to have something to fall back on, but to have something that also makes money that allows you to do the thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
Because it may not make money. And that's the price you're going to pay. So that's why we've got so many actors and singers and whatnot that are, wait tables for so long and that sort of thing. And you find out in doing that what prices you're willing to pay to do what you want to do until what you want to do supports you. I am not someone to say sacrifice for your art at all costs. I'm of the, if you do this, if you have to do it kind of thing where it comes to passion projects and things like that. Because the Whoopi Goldberg was asked one time, how do you become a great actress? And she said, there's lots of great actors. And they said, well, no, what I mean, how do you become famous? She said, those are two completely different things. Yeah. There are millions of fabulous actors and actresses, singers who will never get paid for being on the stage, but the same thing is true for, I was talking with a young man yesterday who thought he wanted to be a dentist. And as he got into that path, he started learning what that path truly was. And what he was really interested in was something that had to do with service and high contact, but it wasn't 8 years in medical school. So, I believe that kind of where I thought the panda was going is that the path that you take tells you about yourself. And you might, however you get to where you're going is the way that you needed to get there, because the you that emerges is important there. So, your family situation, are you still close to all those siblings? How does that work out?
Most of them I'm pretty close with. I'm really close with two of my brothers. Two of my older brothers were very, very close. And then the other ones, we're all still close, and I'll see them every once in a while. There was points where I didn't see them for like 6-7 years. But right now, everybody lives, for some reason, everybody just happens to live decently close. And so I did see most of them just recently. We're all still decently close, just dynamics, and some of the siblings took a more rough path in life. And so during that time, I was never really knowing what they're doing. I wasn't as associated. I was just so much younger than them. And so, but these days, much closer, and everybody's kind of coming around.
What part of the world do you live in?
I live in Utah in the United States.
Okay. All right. And so you guys have some proximity. That's cool.
Yeah, it's been good.
As you build your speaking career, what is the message that, I mean, you told me kind of generically, but let's get down to brass tacks. What's the message that you want to give and serve, and what is the problem that the young person is confronting, or may not even know that they are, that you can help them deal with, that will help them find themselves?
I have thought about this a great deal because it's very difficult. This is, in a sense, you're trying to bring the horse to the water and actually teach the horse how to drink the water and actually get him to do it. Yeah. And that's very difficult.
Particularly when the horse, it never has occurred to him that he's got an interest in water.
100%. I think the most unique thought that I have, so I have an 8-week program set up, and every single week we discuss a new topic. And just to run through them real quick, it's truth, pride, humility, sacrifice, responsibility, addiction, fear, and confidence.
Wow.
And I've come up with this, and I've kind of broken down each one into a 4-day process. And so 4 times 8, a lot of math there, but you do every single day, you work on A, B, and C, and then we'll do like an exam with that. And each one of them, I found they tie together. But the most unique one that I will toss in there that I don't think a lot of people realize is humility, the opposite of pride. And the reason I say that is because everybody's like, I know what it's like to be humble. You gotta, some people, I don't think everybody understands what humility is. And I don't think everybody understands exactly what pride is. Pride to me is not only being a little arrogant and being overconfident or showing off too much, those kinds of things, but it's also denying truth. If you know there's something that you need to do and you're denying it because you're scared, you're A, B, and C, that to me is pride. And the only way to combat that is with humility. I just think that every single person, we're so different for a reason. I mean, 7.8 billion people on the planet, and every single person will never be duplicated again. Even identical twins are so different from each other.
Right.
And so it's just like, there's things that come to your mind and there's things that come into your life that are different from everybody else. But when you are just like, oh, it's just a coincidence, or, oh, I just thought that because I thought that, all of a sudden you let pride in the way of your, everything else. And then it floods into all these different things. And so each step is supposed to lead them a little bit closer to understanding that these are the things you have to do and let go of in order to be something better than what you are right now. You can't do the same things you're doing now if you want to be somebody different. You have to change it. And I think it all starts with humility and a willingness to accept what you feel. And what I feel comes from the man above. And if people don't believe in God, it's like what you feel inside comes from your internal spirit of sorts.
Right.
And you have to be willing to be humble enough to act on that and then make the sacrifices necessary to be that person.
Differentiate humility and self-deprecation and those other kinds of things, because humility is not a negative thing, and it's not a weak thing.
Yes. I think most people, thank you for saying that, because most people associate humility with weakness, and humility is not weakness. Weakness is weakness. It is not good to show your weaknesses, because that's you really just being insecure. Humility is a willingness to acknowledge where either you might be wrong, where either you might have made a mistake, or whether either you're not very good at something. What's the term I'm looking for? It's being meek. That's the term. Meekness is more in line with humility because it's an acknowledgement of something that you can be better at, or you're being vulnerable. That's a better word, vulnerable.
Vulnerable is a fabulous word.
Yes, I like that one a lot. Humility is being vulnerable, being willing to be like, hey, I've never spoke to people before. I'm just learning. I need to do a little bit better. That's not me saying like I suck, I'm sad, and that's me being humble because I know I'm just the word. And too many people look at it that way, but it's not that way at all.
Yeah, Brene Brown from the University of Houston talks about, she studies vulnerability and shame. And people, book her to talk, and they go, yeah, we want you to talk about something, but we don't want you to talk about shame. We don't want you to talk about vulnerability because, we don't have any problems with that. And she said, the more you think you don't, the more you need to step into it, because vulnerability takes incredible strength. You have to know, and humility is a product of vulnerability in her analysis. And she's interviewed thousands of people on these topics and with these focus, and it turns out that pride and all those other things are forms of fear of not being respected, fear of losing an opportunity, fear of being wrong and having someone think less of you.
Yeah.
And it closes down input. It causes you to be really, really good at denial and going, no, I will not walk into that room because I will be vulnerable there and people will see me wrong and they will not give me opportunity. But that's why so many people have to hit absolute rock bottom before they make these kind of turns that you're talking about. It's got to be like, nothing could be worse than this, so let's give truth a try. And that is such an unnecessary, but often the only effective way for a person to take an honest look at themselves. Can you talk to me about some other practices that because that was a great list that you just put, that list was great. And the fact that each of those items has 3 or 4 days of work, that's a book you need to write because it's going to get bought by a lot of people.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And it's a book that everybody will want to give to graduates, high school and college, because this is where you start this is a book. These are topics that if you examine these, your time in the diner will be more effective. The time, looking at the decisions you have to make, because you'll have better data about who it is that you are. So, speak to me about it. What's your favorite one that you like to teach?
My favorite one all time is sacrifice. That's my favorite one. And purely because I think, similar to humility, sacrifice has like a negative connotation to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There's the first meaning of sacrifice, which is like take a lamb and slaughter it, for God. But there's the other meaning of sacrifice, which is really just holding off something now in order for something better later. And sacrifice is by far my favorite because I believe that the greatest love that you can have for others and yourself is by sacrificing. Once again, I don't know how many people here are Christians, but they say in the New Testament, greater love hath no man than a man who laid down his life for his friends.
Right. And
the reason we can claim like, oh, Jesus loves us perfectly is because he sacrificed everything for us. And when we sacrifice our time, our efforts, our money, our resources for other people, we gain a deeper love for them. And I think today, the idea of self-love is so it's just wrong, in all honesty. I'll just be flat out. It's wrong. People's idea of self-love is...
Oh, their interpretation is wrong.
Yes.
Self-love is not wrong.
Oh, yeah. Self-love.
What they believe it to be is the wrong approach. Gotcha. Let's get that straight.
Yeah. Thank you. Because I think too many people, they think that self-love is turning completely inward. And I need to accept this because it's good. It makes me happy for this time, or I need to do this because it makes me happy, A, B, and C. Whereas real self-love is, I actually don't need to do this because I know it's going to be better for me in the long run. Just because I feel as if I need to watch YouTube videos all day, maybe I should just sacrifice that time and do something a little bit more productive because I know that 2 days later, it's going to be so much more beneficial. At the end of the day, I'm actually going to feel like I did something good with my life today. And it's so important every single day, especially just there's distractions, there's things when we're willing to sacrifice things that are just immediate pleasures for something so much better. It brings us so much more love to ourselves because we're like, man, I'm confident in myself. I feel good. And that's why right after that one is addiction, is because I think that addiction is something that has to be sacrificed. And that's addiction to phone, any form of addiction got to be sacrificed.
Right. And I think that's so important, Monson. I think most people avoid the word addiction because they go, I'm not an alcoholic. I don't do drugs. I'm not any of those things. And I promise you, unless you've done a lot of reflective work, and even if you have, you have an addiction. Maybe it's self growth. You know, you go to growth seminars so that you don't have to actually grow. And so unpack addiction just a little bit so that we can know more about what you're talking about there.
I think that addiction is the number one simile to depression, because the thing that gives us the most happiness and the reason that, you know, over time we've lived in such a great place is because of freedom. Addiction takes away freedom. It takes away choice. It takes away ability to have joy. And so addiction is such a big and important step, because if you're addicted to, let's say you're addicted to smoking, while you're at work, you cannot focus on work because you feel as if I have to go and smoke right now. And just so everybody knows, I'm not saying everybody who does these things is just a terrible person in your life is the worst. I'm not saying that. There's obviously people who smoke who are still great humans, but it takes away an aspect of joy because your freedom to choose is taken away because you're wasting time doing something that your body literally feels forced to do. Whereas if it was your real choice, you would do something else. Most people I know, probably all, if I got to know them all, if they had an addiction to something, they are always being like, I want to quit. I'm trying to quit, because they feel demoralized. They feel like their choice is taken away. They feel like it's controlling them. When we're in control, that's why it's so important to know who you are in general, is because when you know who you are, nothing else controls your actions. You control your actions. And that's what's so freeing about it.
Well, you know, one of the things you commented on is you know, your faith journey. And you talked about my audience. You know, I think because my audience began with people who know me, you know, most of them are people that are on probably a Christian or a Judeo-Christian walk. But wisdom is wisdom. You know, all of the wisdom literature, the truth that's in it reflects in each other. There's different approaches, different views of the same diamond, just different facets of that diamond. And so when you hear wisdom, you know it to be true, even if it comes from possibly a negative source, or a faithless source or a manipulative source. When you hear truth, there's some part of you that resonates inside your spirit with that, and you shouldn't reject it just because of the source. You got to be careful about how it's being used. But, you know, truth is truth, and it's like the center of town. I mean, all the roads are leading there. When people are this course that you've got, how do they find you to get hear your podcast and to get this course that you're talking about? What's it called?
So this course, it will be finished in January, and so it's just
we're on the front door here. We are
100%.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, and so as soon as I have the website finished, that's when the course will be finished. And so as soon as I get that all set up, it'll be just January. I'm in a program called the Speaker Lab, and they're the ones. Oh, really? Oh, no way. Oh, that's awesome. Grant Baldwin, my man.
Yeah, man. He's a great guy. I recommend anybody who wants to consider speaking, check out the Speaker Lab.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's really awesome you're doing that. And so they're making the website right now. That's the step that I'm in. And then it's from there. I finished pretty much literally everything else. I've worked with all the coaches, and now it's time for that to be finished. But as soon as that's finished, I'll send it to you and toss in the link if the podcast isn't already out. But for now, you can reach me. You can contact me via email, and I'm happy to talk with you and prepare for what will happen in January and then all of 2023. And my email is just lmgopod@gmail.com, or you can reach me personally.
lmgopod@gmail.com. Okay.
Yep.
Life must go on. lmgopod@gmail.com. monsonclake.com.
Yes, sir.
Now, what you're inviting people to do, is reach out to you and say, I'm interested in learning more.
Mm-hmm.
And can you say at this point that you'll make them some kind of an offer and keep them on a mailing list so that they will know when this course is active? Because I'm going to send it to you.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I will put you on a mailing list. For now, I'm still figuring out how I'm going to handle pricing and everything, but mailing list for sure.
Well, let me just say this. I think that, everybody wants a deal and everybody wants to be fair. All right. Well, the people I want to deal with want a deal and want to be fair. So maybe if you could give them kind of a beta opportunity, and maybe a little more access to you or something, that would be a cool thing to do. But you work that out and package that with your email response. Mm-hmm. And folks, when you reach out to him, say that you heard about him in the Crossroad Diner, so that
please.
So that he knows the context of where you're coming from. Because if you're a listener to this podcast to the point that you're willing to reach out and support and work with some of the coaches and folks that we're talking with, you're in that mindset. You've already got your mind open to the voices within you that are trying to guide you toward your higher self. Yeah. And that'll give him a leg up. Monson, thank you for being on the Crossroad Diner. Any parting words for the folks that are maybe in the diner and upset, fearful, uncertain at this point in their life?
I would just say, be still, understand that the anxieties, the feelings that come to you in these moments, they're not permanent. It lasts, especially in that time, but you will be able to confront them and move forward. And you'll realize that by confronting them, it will bring you so much more joy. I know it's scary, I know it's hard, and I know it is a difficult thing to confront any form of trauma, any form of fear, any form of anxiety. I know it's difficult. I've been there myself. I know how it goes, but I promise that as you do confront it, you will be able to feel the freedom of knowing yourself, and you'll be proud of yourself, and that will lead you to the next thing. It's a domino effect. One domino gets knocked down, the rest follow. So keep it going. Life must go on. Cross that road here at the diner.
Thanks for tying it all together. Monson Flake, thanks for being on the Crossroad Diner.
Appreciate it, Steve. Thank you very much.
Okay, be with us next time, and keep looking at the opportunities that are before you. And for most of us, we avoid confrontation because we're afraid we won't survive. That's in our mind. The truth is, we're afraid that we will survive, and the strength that will be called upon will be uncomfortable. But it'll make you bigger. Until next time, I'm Steve McCurdy for the Crossroad Diner. Check the show notes for any of our shows to get contact information and website addresses for any of our guests. Join us next time in the Crossroad Diner, that place where your spirit goes when it's time to change direction.